Hi, my name is Cindy Young, and this is my application video for the camp counselor position in Tarragona, Spain through AIESEC. So I'm just going to answer all these questions in order now. So the first one is, who are you? So I study public affairs and policy management here at Carleton University in Ottawa, Canada. I specialize in development and I minor in economics, so that's fun. I am Chinese by descent. My parents immigrated from Hong Kong about 25 years ago now to Canada. And my ambitions and dreams, I would say that because I'm so passionate about international development and I decided to uptake policy as the way that I would address development. I really hope that in some sort of context, whether it be with the government or working with a nonprofit, that I could be a policy analyst for development projects abroad. Some of the development issues that hit me the most is education. 100%. I think that human capital is somewhere that we need to invest into more. So that is definitely where I see myself headed. Have you ever experienced culture shock in another country? Yes, I have. From a very young age, my dad brought the whole family traveling with him. I think he wanted us to be exposed to different cultures at a young age, and also he himself just loves to travel. So the first time I went on a plane, it was to China. And I remember the first time walking out of the plane, I think at that point I was just 8 years old. I remember the humidity and the different smells. It was like nothing I've ever experienced before. And I remember thinking like, wow, the food is so different. My mom does cook Chinese food, but it was a different kind of Chinese food as we were in Beijing. And just thinking like the energies with the people around me was just so unfamiliar. And that's when I realized that not everybody lives the same way that I do. So that was a very important lesson to me when I was young, and it was ironic because I am Chinese myself. So it definitely, and it's still something I'm trying to figure out today, hit me with the question of where does my identity lay between Canada and being a Chinese person. Number 3. Do you see yourself as a culturally aware person? Why? Yes, I do, because I had the privilege of growing up here in Canada, specifically in Toronto. So I go to school here in Ottawa, but I am from Toronto. And multiculturalism plays the biggest factor, I believe, in the population. We have people from all different parts of the world. And so even from a young age going to school, I had people from like European descent around me, African descent, Caribbean descent, and other Asian descents around me. And so, we would see, different food that people would bring for lunch, and that we would share. So growing up with that made me realize that, I'm not the only culture in this world. And even today in this university setting, I find that there are a lot of events that showcase different cultures, and I love to go to them. Like, for example, my best friend is Turkish, and I go to her community center quite often. And just to have those opportunities around me allows me to be a culturally aware person, and so for that I'm very thankful for the circumstances around me. Number 4, if I don't apply, which plans do I have for the summer? So if I don't apply, I would probably choose to do summer school and also find a full-time job with the government that would add onto my resume. So number 5, name any teaching, education, work experience and explain a difficult situation and how you overcome it. So a lot of my teaching, education, work experience is quite rather informal, but still I would render it valid. right now I am babysitting 2 kids, and they are half Chinese and half French. And part of why the mom chose to hire me was because I would be able to practice my Cantonese with them. Right now they're being infiltrated by English, and the mom wants to make sure that their multilingualism sticks. And so when they try to talk to me in English, I would reply with Cantonese, and that would allow them to respond back in Cantonese too. Going back even further, I did a missions trip in Mexico City about 2 years ago, and I worked at a church as a camp counselor for about 2 weeks while I was there, and I did other stuff there. But for those 2 weeks, I got to sing songs with children. I got to teach them dance moves, and the thing is that it was all done in Spanish. So I'm going to actually elaborate more in a little bit. And I think the third experience that I would have is working as a camp counselor here at a church in Toronto. And I led a Bible camp and a sports camp for kids. And so what we were trying to teach them was the Bible stories and the lessons that that came with it through different activities, whether it be creative, whether it be more physical, whether it be interactive. So we're just trying to experiment different ways that children intake information by planning these activities. So that was a really fun experience. So just to elaborate on the Mexico experience I had, one of the most difficult boundaries or obstacles that I faced was the fact that I didn't have that much Spanish in me, and that was hard. And it hit my pride, because here in Canada, I was always the top of my French classes, and I was always the passionate one about languages. And when it hit me that, oh my goodness, like I cannot express myself fully because I can't speak Spanish, it really disappointed me. So that was an obstacle. And how do you overcome it? I think there are different ways, but there are 2 major steps that have to be taken. The first one is to just simply believe in yourself. Because if you can't tell yourself that you are capable of overcoming an obstacle, then you're not going to. The second biggest thing is to utilize the resources around you. And I think the reason why the church was okay with me being a camp counselor in Mexico was because, in speaking Spanish, was because they knew that I had the proper resources around me in order to get there. So I had bilingual English-Spanish speaking friends that took time out of their day to, whether it be correct my sentences or just teach me things on the side, connecting it with French, connecting it with English so I can start to form my own proper sentences. I started to, because in the context of being on a missions trip, started to read my Bible in Spanish. I started to listen to music in Spanish and sing in Spanish because I love to sing. And so because those opportunities were there around me, I took them and I told myself I had the capabilities of getting to a level where my Spanish would be, decent enough to be a camp counselor. I would say somewhat got there. So number 6. There are some camps in English summer that are not located in the mountains, and maybe the internet signal for communication is not good. What would represent this to you? So I'm not really sure what this question is asking, but if you're asking me if I'm okay with a lack of internet signal, yes, I absolutely am. I've been in countries where finding internet is like finding gold, so I'm not too concerned about that. So number 7, why do you think it's important to get on well with people from the camp, and what do you expect? I think it's important because the quality of the team is reflected in the quality of the work that is given, right? If all of us are not getting along, then we're not going to be able to efficiently not just allocate responsibilities, but be able to plan accordingly to exercise the activities that we need to do. And so for that, it is definitely important, because not only are our own personal lives affected, or not only the staff is affected, but also the children. And when the parents see that, hey, like, why am I dropping off my children here when I could be dropping them off at, let's say, like a math camp, or like, you know, another kind of camp, like, it will show. So teamwork is definitely super important. I expect a lot of fun, to be honest. I find that there is no traveling experience that is ever forgettable. It's always going to be unforgettable. I expect challenges, though. I expect tensions, but I also expect a team that is willing to work with one another, willing to overcome struggles together, and a team that is going to do their best to help children learn English. 8. How does AIESEC benefit you and your future career? I always tell people this, that traveling expands your peripherals to how you see the world. And so not only is AIESEC a working experience, but it's also another opportunity to travel. And I think when you put yourself outside of a comfort box, you're going to learn something about yourself. You're going to learn something about how other people are. And you're going to learn something about how a work environment overall like functions. So there's 3 things. And I think regardless of what those lessons are, it's going to push me to be a stronger person in whatever work field I choose to take in the future. Number 9, why this opportunity? Why AIESEC in Barcelona? Tell 3 things you would most like to achieve with it. I chose this opportunity because I love anything Spanish. And also if it in the summer, so no, I'm kidding. Yeah, I love anything Spanish. I started learning Spanish right when I got back from Mexico. I took it a lot more seriously. I think it's just an absolute beautiful language, and I know there are cultural differences between Latin America in general and Spain itself, but I want to learn about what those cultural differences are, and learn more about the country's history, because it is really rich in art, in music, in the food, and I want to be able to see all of those things. So those are the things that I would love to achieve. I also want to be able to learn more about myself, how I am in a different setting that I'm not familiar with, and that is tied back into the previous question, right? So yeah, I'm very excited. Number 10, professionally, what do you expect to be your challenge? What do you expect to be your challenge during your traineeship? On the top of my head, I can definitely think about how I'm worried about the team. I think I would be worried about how I get along with them, whether or not they will like me. What if our work ethics are different? What if the way that we think is different, and that conflicts with one another as we, execute the activities for these children? But I think that it will be okay, because I think there are a lot of opportunities for us to bond, to try to get to know each other. Whether it's taking time during the weekend to just hang out and have some fun, whether it's meeting and just talking about our differences and how we're going to overcome them together. So even though I'm nervous about it, I know it's going to be okay. So the next question is, answer the situation. I am with children of 10 to 12 years old, and they don't know how to communicate in English. What would you do to encourage them to speak and learn English? So I think by 10 to 12 years old, you might have like simple words retained in your brain about English. So whether it be like phone, apple, happy, sad, because the languages are quite similar anyways, but I would have them practice using those simple words in motion with their body language and be around them as they do that to facilitate it and to just try to understand what they want to say, and then use my English to help them build that foundation. I don't want them to I want to build an environment around them where they don't feel discouraged when they screw up, that they're actually encouraged, to make mistakes and learn from them, because that is the best way to learn. Because if you get nervous and just go back to Spanish, for example, then you're never going to challenge yourself to get outside of that comfort box that I've been talking about this whole video, right? So definitely creating the environment where they feel safe to make mistakes, and also building on the basic vocabulary that they already have is my answer to this question. And finally, to conclude, explain to us in 30 seconds why we should choose you. So I actually love working with children. It's perfect. I wanted an opportunity to go abroad and practice my Spanish, and I'm like, oh my gosh, children, that's just perfect. I think children are they remind you of what this world should be like, honestly. So innocent. Also, I am a very enthusiastic person, and I think with the enthusiasm, that's going to just play out in the quality of work I will show, whether it's working with the staff or doing activities with the kids and making relationships with the people that I make around, with the people that I encounter. I think I will definitely be a good fit for the team, with my optimism, with my hard work, and in all the things that I can bring with my cultural awareness to the table. And yeah, I'm super, super excited. And I hope to meet you guys soon. So bye, and we will talk soon.